You mentioned snow. I had no idea it snows in South Africa.
Yeah, maybe I should qualify that. The central part of South Africa, actually, there's a range of mountains that run straight through from the northern part of South Africa right through almost to the southern tip of Africa, called the Drakensberg, and around these mountains, and obviously on top of these mountains, you can find snow during winter time. Actually, it doesn't compare with snow in the northern hemisphere where you really have deep snow and things like that. But it gets really cold during winter, and temperatures would be far below zero for most of the time up in these mountainous areas. So, yeah, it's not enough to snow to ski in, but it's pretty cold.
That sounds interesting. I always thought South Africa is really wild and rugged and hot. Are there any such areas?
Oh yeah, right. Actually, South Africa is very diverse when it comes to areas. Like there are many different climate zones, different landscapes, and actually, if you travel around the country, you'd be really struck by how the vegetation can be so different, and within a morning's drive or an afternoon's drive, you could be in a completely different landscape and a different vegetation, animals around you, different plant life. On the western side of the country, it can be really hot. It's almost got a desert type of well, it does have a desert type landscape, very sparse vegetation, very little rainfall, not many people, not many animals. Very beautiful. It's really a place I recommend people to visit because you can hear silence and it be quiet around you, and yeah, it's really beautiful, but almost a bit strange to be confronted by so much raw nature, I guess, if you can put it that way.
Wow, sounds really interesting. What about, are there any tropical areas?
I think on the eastern side of the country, close to the seaside, it's really hot and tropical most of the year. Winter, it's a bit cooler, but especially the northeastern parts of the country, lush tropical vegetation, wonderful fruit, of course, but really, really hot temperatures of 40 degrees Celsius every day and 90% humidity. Yeah, like really, really hot.
You must have traveled quite a lot around the country, right?
I think I have, especially during my student days. I traveled around a lot, and because I like hiking and outdoors thing, I really enjoy traveling around the country. And South Africa is really diverse. As I said, you can travel in one day and find many different spots and different places. If you move towards the southern part of the country, closer to Cape Town, you'd find a really mild climate, and they grow a lot of fruit and they grow a lot of wine in that area. And a lot of people live there because the climate is so mild and really no extreme temperatures. So it's a really nice place, easy place to live in that sense.
Okay. So if I want to visit, it sounds like there are so many different places. Which one would you recommend is the best? What's your favorite area?
I would say the best area to live would be the southern part near Cape Town, or actually traveling from Cape Town to the eastern seaboard. It's called the Garden Route in South Africa, and the name comes from the fact that it looks like a garden almost. It's really, really beautiful. Beautiful plants, trees, forests, and it's all relatively high rainfall, so everything grows. It just grows. It's really, really beautiful, and it's not too hot. It never gets too hot in summer, never too cold in winter. But recently, perhaps because of global warming, we have seen quite a lot of changes in South Africa. More snow, interestingly enough. And I believe some of the hot areas have recorded even hotter temperatures. So it's becomes even more interesting, I guess.
Great.
Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention, if you like to travel around, there's a really beautiful place that you can visit close to Cape Town. It's one of the world's, I think they call it the Flora Kingdom, and it's a heritage site that you can visit because of all the different species of plant life. Scientists from all over the world come to study it, and many tourists come to see it. I think all the species combined in that tiny area, and I think it's not even 20 square kilometers maybe, have more species than the whole of Eurasia combined. And it's a fascinating, beautiful place to visit because of the natural occurrence of so many different species.
Yeah, sounds great. Well, I hope I can get to visit one day.
I hope so too. It'd be really nice.
Hello, Felipe. How are you?
Hello, I'm fine. You?
Good, good. But, I was wondering, for me, Ecuador and Colombia seems to be so the same. Can you tell me how can I distinguish them, or what is the difference between Ecuador and Colombia?
Well, I don't think let's say culture is pretty much the same, but let's talk about people, okay? Ecuadorians and Colombians are different, I think. Colombian people are more hardworking people. They really worry about working and earning a lot of money and stuff like that, But Ecuadorians are more like, easygoing people. So I think that's the main difference between them.
That is so interesting. What about climate or the cities or the nature? Is there any differences between Ecuador and Colombia?
Yes, you're right. The climate and the environment is quite different. Well, there is one similarity, and it's that both countries have the highlands, which is the Andes highlands, and the Amazon region, and the coastal region. But the size of the countries are different. Colombia is a huge country, and also it has the Caribbean Sea, which Ecuador doesn't have. Now, Ecuador, if you look at Ecuador is quite a small country compared to Colombia.
That is so interesting. What about some similarities? Is there any similarities between Ecuador and Colombia?
Well, yes, there are many similarities. For example, if you look at the food, mainly the food is composed of, potatoes and corn and many fruits that both countries have. So if you travel to Colombia, if you travel to Ecuador, you will pretty much find the same kind of food because it's made from the same kind of ingredients.
Okay, perfect. So now I have a better idea of the differences and some similarities of Ecuador and Colombia. Thank you, Felipe.
Okay, you're welcome.
Hello, Felipe. How are you?
Hello, I'm fine.
Listen, I was thinking, you know a lot about Ecuador and Colombia, right?
Yes.
What is it that you like about those two countries? Or what is it that you don't like that much? Or what would you like to change?
Well, what I really love of both countries is nature. Because, my hobby is mountain climbing. So I enjoyed climbing high mountains in both countries. Because you have that, that in Colombia and Ecuador, there is the highlands. And you have really, really high mountains. So I enjoy that. And also, let's say one thing that I don't like is that cities are too big, and if you get lost, if you travel to Bogota, it's huge. So I don't like cities in Colombia because they're so big, they're huge, and you get lost.
What about in Ecuador? Quito, is it also a big city?
Well, it's a big city, but it's not that big as Bogota. If you think you can travel from the south to the north in a couple of hours, maybe 2 hours. It's not that huge as Bogota.
That is so interesting. What about something that you would like to change, perhaps, of Ecuador or Colombia?
Well, the only thing I would like to change is something about tourism, because you know that people overseas, outside of Colombia and Ecuador, they don't know too much about Colombia and Ecuador. So, I don't know. I think the government should, make people overseas know more about Colombia and Ecuador so that we can attract more tourists to our countries.
That is so true. Actually, just by knowing more, I want to go to Ecuador and Colombia.
Wow, that's great.
So thank you, Felipe.
Okay, you're welcome.
So, do you believe in love at first sight?
I think it does exist. I think you can have sort of a spark at first sight, but what I consider as love is a bit different to what that first kind of meeting would be. If you can have something and then you think that person has a real possibility, I think that's what you mean by love at first sight. But you can't instantly love someone. It takes growth. It takes coming together, shared experiences, that sort of stuff. But, I think for some people, my parents actually met at a guitar concert, and it was a total mistake. They thought that... No, seriously, it was a total mistake. They thought that each other was in the same group, and it turned out they were on separate groups. And then things went from there. He proposed after 5 weeks.
Wow.
And actually he proposed in front of the fax machine while his divorce was being finalized.
Oh my God.
To his first wife.
What a romantic story.
So yeah, and 20 years later, so it took one conversation in a guitar concert. So I've seen it, I guess that spark definitely exists in them.
I guess if you call it attraction at first sight, it's way more fitting.
Yeah.
That's what I feel, at least. I have friends who experienced, like one of my friends on my university now, she experienced love at first sight. Like, she saw the guy and she thought, that's the guy I want to marry. So I never tried anything like that, but I heard it happen, and I see it happening now, because she's still way head over heels for this guy.
I think if you decide the person you're going to marry when you see them, you're a little bit insane.
Well, insanity is a good point.
I suppose.
She is a little bit insane, yeah. She had a very sad love story beforehand, a guy she was in love with for 2.5 years, who knew, but he didn't. I think they actually did date a little, but he didn't want to be serious about it.
Yeah.
So I guess she's more, she wants it to be serious. But I never tried, I think the people I've been in love with, it has taken time. It has taken at least half a year before I felt that there was more. I could be attracted to them, but the love part, the really wanting to be with this person, came later, because I didn't want to get serious immediately.
Yeah, I think after that sort of 6-month puppy love stage, and it's so new and exciting, and you're learning all about the other person, that's when it starts to get I think you start to feel the stress.
But I mean also, if there was a guy I didn't even date, but we were talking together for half a year, and when we met, because it was internet, and he was in Holland and I was in Denmark, so we met after half a year. We first met on a trip, so we met, and then I could feel it grow, but it took me half a year to slowly and safely just get to the point where I could actually feel something. It didn't work out, but
Oh, well, what can you do?
yeah, I tried.
So how do you feel about long-distance relationships?
Not that good. I had 2 relationships by now, and both of them ended after me going somewhere. First time I was in Denmark, but I live on a school in another city, and while I was there for 4 months, I think 2 months after, I went home to him and broke up, and then came back to the school and just didn't really care. And then the second time I went traveling, and I missed him so much, and I came back and realized that there was nothing left. I lost everything while I was away. So I don't. After 1 month, after 2 months, I think that it just doesn't work for me if it's not really special.
Yeah, I guess you're kind of like me. Like I have to see the person
Exactly.
almost daily.
Exactly. And you can have conversations online and on the phone, but if there's no, I don't know, doesn't have to be much. Just be close, see each other in the eye,
It's a big difference. Yeah, I did a month when I went home to Australia. Away.
This summer?
Yeah, this recent summer. And Skype is just not enough.
Oh.
Do you know what I mean?
I
You
know
can
what
see
you
the
mean.
person, you can talk to them, you can kiss the camera if you want, but it's
If
not
you want.
it's not the same. But that's not to say I don't think some people can do it.
I figure if it's a very if the relationship is very it's very passionate, or you've been going on for a long time, because both of my relationships was under 1 year, I think. The first one was 1 year and the second one was half a year. So if we're used to staying together, then I think you can work it out. I'm just too impatient.
Yeah, I guess under a year you haven't really learnt to depend on the other person.
Exactly.
all
You're
the
still
time.
going by the passion. If you can't see the person every day or whenever you want, then the passion just slowly fades.
Yeah,
Yeah.
agreed.
But this is your first relationship, right?
Yes, it is. And I did 1 month when I went home away from the person, and it
And
was
that's
just...
the first time you ever went away from the person.
Yeah, and it was just...
horrible.
horrible.
I remember the first time I traveled while my boyfriend was still at home, and it was a week, and I was devastated.
Yeah.
So it's if it's passionate, it's impossible.
Well, I did Christmas away from them when I went to Christmas. I did India for Christmas last year.
Oh, okay.
And 2 weeks was bad enough. And then a month, and I was just pulling my hair out, do you know? So,
Yeah, it's hard.
it certainly is.
Yeah.
So we're both teaching at university, and I was curious, Jana, what do you think about giving students homework?
Oh, that's a tricky one, isn't it? Students usually don't like homework.
Yeah. Did you used to like homework as a student?
I can't remember, but these days I kind of like homework as a student because it motivates me to study. I'm terrible at studying on my own, so having homework makes me do something.
Right. No, I think I agree with you. I think homework is important in the sense that it prepares you for the next class, or prepares you for the topic or the classes that are running. So it also helps it prepares you, I think, and it can confirm stuff for you if you go over it again. So we call it homework, but I think it's really just maybe preparation or
review or continuation of the class, isn't it?
Yeah. So maybe we agree that homework's important.
What about tests? Do you like tests?
That's a good question. I don't like tests as a learner, and I don't like giving tests so much as a teacher. But I think in some ways a test have some advantages that you can't get that information any other way. I'm not sure.
So why do we test? Is it to why do we test? Is it again to motivate students to study hard or to check their progress?
I think we test because obviously we teach at an institution at university, and they want grades for students so that students can say that they've passed or failed the course. So I guess a test sets some kind of standard there to make sure that everybody has more or less the same standard. But in terms of actually learning stuff, does a test really make sure that you learn stuff, do you think?
Don't know. When I was a student, I personally really hated the big tests at the end of the semester.
Me too.
And especially speaking tests. We had a lot of oral exams, and I found that extremely stressful. I would have preferred to have more smaller tests throughout the semester, but I think it really depends on the learner style, right? Different people like different things, so...
Yeah, it's kind of hard because I think most schools and across the world, they run on tests like we've been taught. I don't know about you, but I have had tests since I was in elementary school. And when you get to university, you just assume that you will have tests anyway. Don't you think?
That's right. So maybe students would complain if we don't have any tests.
I've had students that really said that they learned that's the only way they really study, if they're forced to study for a test. Because you put that kind of limit for them there. But I'm not sure that it's a really good way to remember stuff, because a lot of students just cram a lot of information in their heads before the test night, and then they forget it after the test.
It's a tricky one.